What if burnout is calling us to listen? And every transition in our life is a teacher. It's preparing us for that final transition. What if your body's saying no, your exhaustion, your closed doors, and your season of uncertainty are not just interruptions, but invitations to reconnect with yourself, your purpose, and to what truly matters to you? Hello, my name is Donna Marie, and welcome to the Sacred Moments podcast. This is a space where we normalize mortality, grief, love legacy, and end of life conversations. I call them whole life conversations because I don't believe there's anything we experience in life that isn't connected. In today's Sacred Moment conversation, Dr. Alessandra and I explore the seven forms of rest, not as a luxury, but as something absolutely necessary for our growth, our healing, our development, our evolution, and for us as whole beings to live in wholeness. People often think we simply need more sleep, but what we actually need is rest. Before we get into the conversation, please subscribe to the Sacred Moments channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when new episodes are available. Like our content, share your comments. We want to hear from you. Dr. Alessandra, thank you so much for being with me this morning, this Friday morning on the Sacred Moments podcast. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me, Donna. I cherish moments like this, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you and your community. Thank you.
Our discussion today is on not just rest, but I want to highlight the work that you're doing, and also offer the audience some ways to understand what rest is. It's not just getting some sleep. Looking forward to our discussion, and would like to start with you just telling everyone a bit about yourself.
Sure. How far back do we want to go?
Girl, wherever the spirit leads you, bring it.
Alessandra. I am born to Damaris and Ronald Thompson, and I was born in Selma, Alabama. And that happened because my dad was in the military. I was conceived in Italy. Eventually, we made our way to the DMV. He was reassigned to Bowling Air Force Base. We lived on Bowling for a little while, and then we moved into Prince George's County. And so I grew up in Prince George's County. After high school, I went to Xavier University of Louisiana. So in some ways, I returned to my southern roots, where I thought I was going to study to become a doctor. And after my first year, when I came home, I had the great opportunity to work in pharmacy with my dad. And there was an amazing young black woman pharmacist, and she was like, tell me more about you wanting to become a doctor. And I told her, and really the reason, Donna, that I wanted to become a doctor goes back to childhood. Me and my very close cousin Nikki, we were same age, same grade. I forget, we were talking one day, and when I tell you we were kids, I mean literally like 6 or 7. I said I wanted to be a lawyer. Well, she said she wanted to be a lawyer too. And I said, no, we both cannot be lawyers. And I said, okay, then I'll become a doctor. And then from then on out, I had just decided I was going to become a doctor. And that was what I was pursuing. I never thought twice about it. I enjoyed science. I enjoyed math. So it didn't feel like, an insurmountable task for me. It was just what I was going to do. And, it felt right to me. And she asked me about why I wanted to become a doctor. I don't remember what I said. And she said, you can do all of those things and be a pharmacist. And I went into pharmacy school. I thought that what I was going to do was I would work in a clinic doing high blood pressure, cholesterol management, diabetes management. And at that time that I graduated, residency for pharmacists was really becoming a thing. And so I applied to do a residency in Kansas City, Missouri, and I did not match. Absolutely devastated. That was my first big no or rejection or closed door that I can remember. Needless to say, I returned home. I was working for Giant, and I received mail from the University of Maryland that indicated that they had a position open for palliative care residency. Didn't have a clue what palliative care was, but I was like, this will get me out of retail. Went, interviewed, learned more about it, said, great, I'll do it. It was a pivotal moment in my life. I became immersed in the world of end of life care. And um, when I look back on it, I realized that that closed door was a necessary closed door in order for me to find this path, because I never would have chosen it on my own. And I think that it was a necessary thing, because prior to that, I was afraid of death, like just absolutely terrified of it. And so I entered into this world where I found my footing. I found my place. Like that was my ministry, to do that work,
Yeah.
to support doctors and nurses, to care for persons who were terminally ill, and to support them as they were supporting their families as well. That work has always been in my heart, and it opened many doors for me. And when I say many doors, doors that helped me better understand myself, helped me to connect with people, and I would also say help transform my relationship and understanding God in ways that I never would have
Mm.
without working in this space of, I don't even really like to say death and dying, but life transition.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you flipped the script there, because it's one continuum. Life and death are not separate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a transition. It's part of the continuum. And we are going through so many transitions in life. Each transition, to me, and how you navigate that transition prepares you for the final transition.
From there, I went to divinity school at Howard University, and after graduating divinity school, I felt a really strong pull back to end of life care. There was an article in the Washington Post about end of life care, and it really like pulled at my heart. And I've always been a big dreamer. And then I was having dreams that I was doing the work again. I was back in it, and it was like I'd never left. I simply loved it. It was work that I was called to do. From there, I left, and I did, I'll call it corporate pharmacy work. And I enjoyed it, but it also burned me out. It took me further away from the call of my heart, and it was just extremely hard work. I had my very first panic attack doing that work, the last leg of full time pharmacy work, and I, I struggled with anxiety. I never had another panic attack, or at least not to the extent that I had to go to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. It was on my 40th birthday, right after my 40th birthday. I would sleep for 12 to 14 hours a day because I was so exhausted, depleted in every single way. My spirit was broken, and I didn't know what was next. I had no idea what it meant to put one foot in front of the other in this way. And so I was sleeping, not out of depression, but really just pure exhaustion. A yoga teacher that I had started practicing with, she was opening a studio here in Waldorf, and I was like, oh, perfect timing. I was like, let me go back and do this. I was in the studio every day she had classes, and I was beginning to feel like myself again. I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I eventually took the path of becoming a yoga teacher. Fast forward to COVID and teaching online, and my body being tired, and the rigors of COVID, and still working in the community as a pharmacist, and the traumas that were happening um, in this nation and I was tired again. I was exhausted. And I found restorative yoga and I began practicing and I fell in love with it. And again, I felt restored. And this became the soul practice for me. Um, Again, it felt like the call of my heart. As I sit in this seat now, and it's probably been about 2 or 3 years that I realized there was such a parallel for me with end of life care. Felt like home again for me.
You know, when you say that, I think of my foot massage
Mm-hmm.
and how that is such a perfect complement to end of life, someone who's at the end of their life. The foot massage I had with you, I remember you told me or asked me a question about something you were hitting at the bottom of my foot, and I was in another world. I didn't feel you doing whatever it is you were doing because the foot massage, one, I needed the rest. But the foot massage just very easily brought me to that space of resting and releasing and letting go. And that is such a compliment to the end of life transitioning threshold work.
I think there is a power of human touch.
Oh,
There's
yes.
the power of human touch, um, especially when that touch is laced and woven with care and love. And the way that that can help to ease transition is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I can see it very clearly how that can make a huge difference. To provide care, is no matter what I do, that is always my calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I honor you and I appreciate the work that you're doing because that work and being present in people's lives in this kind of transition is life changing, and it's you hold a place that is always sacred in people's lives, and that for as hard as it can be, right? You help to provide. I don't know that ease is the right word, but um, a helpful segue. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. And what I'm realizing in this work is how to take care of myself better because
Yeah.
there's no way to show up for someone and witness, to be witness to an experience, to be support, and it not have an impact on you emotionally, mentally, physically. Um, and so this work is calling me back to resting and caring for myself, cooking my own food, eating whole foods, because I need the energy
Yeah.
when I'm showing up in those moments. I need the wholeness of who I am
Hmm.
when I'm showing up in those moments. And it's really so amazing how this work has brought me back to what's meaningful to me and what's needed for me. That foot massage that put me to sleep, that was a transference of energy.
Hmm.
And in the same way, my work as a doula takes something from me and transfers your work, because I felt it. I felt so amazing after my foot massage. So I know that that was an energetic exchange that was very
What
powerful.
I'll share with you, Donna, is that I it is important to me and for me to rest, because I can't do this. I cannot do this work from a place of exhaustion, right? Because you just said it. When I'm working and I'm touching and I'm caring for people, there's a transfer of energy. The energy that I don't want to transfer is that of exhaustion, right? And when
Yeah,
I'm pouring from a cup that's overflowing. I am not pouring from or giving from a place of deficit. I've had moments where I've been tired. I have moments when I've been
yeah,
really tired. But when I reach those moments, I know that there is a pause that has to take place, right? That I haven't been pausing as often as I normally would, and that there's a necessary pause for me. Whether
yeah,
it's a 20-minute pause or it's a pause for an entire day. But there is an intentionality for me about taking those pauses for myself so that there is um, a truth to who I am and to what I'm doing, right? It's not just, it's, yes, I have a business, I have a work, I have a ministry, I have a calling, but that, all of that has to come to me first before I
Yeah.
can do anything with anyone else.
Being able to connect to my inner calm, my grounding, inner grounding in any environment is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain from your professional background and what you've studied and what you offer to people, how is, um, first of all, restorative yoga, the Reiki energy healing that you do, how is all of that different than me taking a nap or me sitting down to meditate?
So I think that rest is one of the elements of taking care of yourself. I think it looks different in that rest, I believe that rest is about a stillness in the body that then moves into your mind and into your spirit. And I think that there are some requirements in order for us to rest. And part of my understanding of rest, I would say, comes from an understanding of the practice of yoga. I understand that in order for us to be able to rest, there are some things that we need. We need for our body to be able to feel supported, and our bodies need to feel some level of safety. We need to feel a sense of warmth, and there needs to be some level of darkness in order for the body to be able to release itself. We move so much in the day, right? And there are so many things that we are attending to, that we are responding to, and even reacting to. And our nervous system is always on, right? Our bodies were designed to have a sense of homeostasis or a sense of balance, such that when there is something for us to respond to, then we should be able to mount up, if you will, right? Address the threat, and then we come back into a state where we are not addressing a threat, right? Where we're able to move casually about the work that we need to do and the lives that we need to live. In the world in which we live, we are always almost responding to some kind of threat, right? Some kind of perceived threat, some kind of perceived urgency. And it can come in different forms, but we are almost always on high alert, and as a result, our bodies are tense. Our bodies are like, okay, what do I need to do next? Restorative yoga, using props, whether you're using yoga props or you're using whatever it is that you have in your home, pillows and blankets, you could be on your bed. We're supporting the body in ways that, instead of sending the message that you need to be alert, they're beginning to rewire the message, suggesting that your body can relax and yield to the support of props. And in doing that, with time, the body allows itself to surrender, to be held, to be by these props. And often what happened to me in the beginning, and what I watch with many of my clients and women that I have worked with, is that you can see almost the exhaustion unfold right before you, because we have lived so much of our lives without that level of support, right? Where
Yeah.
we are always having to support ourselves on top of other people, right? And so when, just imagine, like, if I just use my hand, after a while my hand doesn't have to grip, the other hand. after a while, the top hand feels the support of the bottom hand, and you can see how, over time, my fingers begin to uncurl. And
Hmm.
it's similar with our bodies. When we have that level of support, over time, we are able to our muscles are able to soften, our joints are able to enjoy a place of soft bending, because everything is held.
Reminds me of my time during COVID-19, the shutdown, rather,
Hmm.
and me walking my same route to the park and back.
Hmm.
Um, During COVID, I noticed that I'm surrounded on the walk by magnolia trees, and I love magnolia trees. I had never seen them before the shutdown. That walking meditation that I created for myself again opened my eyes to so much I had never noticed before. And that's kind of what happens during rest. You feel parts of your body that are tense that you
Hmm.
didn't even know were tense. And so you can release that. You feel pain in your body that maybe you feel anyway, but you could actually focus on releasing and breathing and allowing.
Hmm.
And sometimes the pain will dissipate, allowing yourself to feel supported, allowing yourself to feel,
Hmm.
period, because we are moving and thinking and creating and all the time and experiencing fear and experiencing trauma. And when you're in that rested state, you can feel the ease.
Hmm.
If we're intentional about feeling the ease, then it really changes how we show up. The ease becomes a part of how you operate in life.
Changes the fabric. I believe it can change the fabric of not who you are, but how you show up and the ways
Yes,
in which you move. Um, because it's like you can't unsee it. You cannot unfeel it, right?
yes.
It's one of those things. Once you know, for me at least, it's a thing of not wanting to go back, right?
When I saw the first magnolia tree, Dr. Alessandra, I was stunned. I'm like, what?
Like, where
I've
did it come
never
from?
seen this tree. How did I walk past this tree I've lived here 20 years. This has been my walk, I would say at least 15 of the 20, if not more.
Hmm.
How did I never ever see this magnolia tree? It was
Hmm.
amazing. And you're right. I can't go back to not seeing it. I can't go back to recognizing that I was walking blindly.
Yep.
Like, what else is there for me to awaken to by being silent, by meditating, by walking, by being in nature, by going inward? How much more is there for me to see?
I believe that rest affords us a clarity that we don't have when we are unrested.
Yeah.
I would say, let me not speak for the collective, but I remember thinking, oh, I do my best work when I'm stressed, when my back is up against the wall.
Stress can be good. I just want to,
Learning how to be motivated under conditions that are not stressful is helpful as well, right? Like there is a healthy tension of both. But when stress is always present, then it's no longer helpful, then it becomes harmful. And I
yeah,
think that's the challenge. And to your point that if you had taken that route for over 15 years, clearly the magnolia tree did not just get there in such a way that you would notice.
right.
Speaks to almost the veil that covers our eyes for so long because we are so, doing all of the things and so stressed and so for all of the reasons. And have found that rest is a way to slowly begin to almost remove or shift the position of that veil. And I would also suggest that I've recognized that this experience that we are sharing about can be extremely scary for people, right?
Yeah,
Because there is a truth and a reality that is there that everyone isn't ready
right,
to deal with and to
right.
come to a reckoning with, if you will. And, to be still with your thoughts can be a lot. And I get it. And, I've also watched people fidget because there can be an uneasiness that can happen when you enter into this place of stillness. And so um, I think and know that rest is an extremely powerful practice.
And I said this earlier, like it helps you all the way to the end to prepare for that final transition. And so I guess the rest practice part of it, and a question that I can just ask everybody is, how do you want to show up at the end? Because the way you're showing up now, it will show up at the end.
Mm-hmm. We learn in yoga that that final pose, that Shavasana, that corpse pose, is preparation for final rest. And in those final months, weeks, days, hours, one really has to, or you are faced with an opportunity to find stillness and peace and rest in those moments when there's absolutely nothing else that you can do.
Yeah.
And I think it is preparation for even some of the roughest moments of our lives. I think that, yes, there is a role for fighting. Yes, there is a role for doing. Yes, there is a role for all of those things. And there is also a role for simply being present, resting in the midst of whatever is. And I think that's what this practice can absolutely help us with at the end. I'm 51 and I have been thinking about my own mortality more and more because I have one living grandparent remaining, my father's mother, and she's 100. My mother's mother lived to be 101 and almost 6 months. So if I follow in the steps of my grandmothers,
Yes.
I have just under half of my life to go.
Mm-hmm.
But none of us knows how long we have. What I am clear about is more than likely, unless I live to be 102, I have already lived half of my life.
Yes.
And I have less life ahead of me than I did 2 years ago. That's if I
Yeah.
live to be 100. And so I have been thinking about my own mortality more and more. I've been thinking about the legacy that I'll leave. I've been thinking about, you know, if I have any say in how I die, what that will look like. Um, but the thing that I know for sure is that I don't want the fuss of hospitals in a bunch of tubes and a bunch of things. When I think about how I want to transition, it's either in front of a body of moving water or where I can see the trees.
Yeah. That would be
And if I
great.
could have both, ideally, that would be it. The trees are my best friends. I still, when I walk, I sometimes step into where the trees are so that I can just touch the trees. I could sit on my deck for hours just watching the movement of the branches because there is a sense of connectedness to me. Like, yes, we see the part that is above ground, but knowing that there are these roots below
Yes.
ground that connect them and that nourish them and connect them to other parts of life that we don't even get to see, help to ground me. And so when I think about death, that's kind of the vision that I think of, and that's the not only the external vision, but what how I want to feel on the inside, right? And again, that's a practice. Every
Yeah.
time I rest, sometimes people have it wrong. They're thinking that, oh, you're resting because you finished everything. No, I haven't finished everything. There are a lot of things that are not done,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that I cannot rest. Like, rest is not a reward for the work that we're doing.
Resting isn't always having a place to lie down. It's very good to schedule that intentional time
Mm-hmm.
to lie down, to rest, to listen. But that rest again, prepares you for when you are in a situation where you can't lie down or you can't, find a place to sit. Like, I just want to make it clear to people that you don't have to be in a certain posture.
Sometimes rest looks like 60 seconds of just slowing down, stopping, and breathing,
Yes.
connecting with yourself, right? It's this opportunity to come back to yourself so that when you return to, and when I say return, when you, whether it's the reopening of your eyes, when you walk through the door, when you take that next step, you're able to do so in the fullness of who you are and not in the energy of the emotion that you are necessarily wrestling with, right? There are many times that for me, rest looks like I'm going to go step outside for 2 minutes. Sometimes it is a very slow walk, right? Feeling my feet on the ground, looking at whatever is in the sky, whether it's the clouds or the sun, and giving myself that reset moment, that timeout in order to come back to myself. There are different ways of experiencing rest. In Trisha Hersey's book, when she talks about rest is resistance, she talks about how the older people in the community, when they would say, let me just rest my eyes, right? Just closing their eyes.
Yeah.
They didn't go to sleep. There was something that happened from their eyelids being open to their eyelids being closed and settling within their spirits.
Yes.
Happening.
My grandfather did that all the time. They talked about the seven forms of rest. And so those are physical, mental, emotional, social, sensory, creative, and spiritual. And I love all of that because in life, there's never one thing that's going to do the healing. Everything, like you talked about those roots, when you were talking about the roots, I was just thinking that in our world globally, there are roots that bind and connect all of us, and we lose sight of that very important concept. We're not separate. We're all connected by those roots. And so again, there's never just one thing. So these seven forms of rest really stood out to me. But you mentioned legacy. Can you tell me the name of your sacred space?
Is Dr. Alessandra, and I do some of this work in my studio, which is called the Sacred Rest Spot. I'm located in Waldorf, Maryland, so a little bit south. I know some folk call it Wakanda. The work that I do, thankfully, is not bound by location. I do some of this work virtually. I do some work in person. I've had the blessing to be able to travel to do some of this work. This work is truly about creating the space for people to be able to slow down into stillness so that their body has an opportunity to settle down, for the nervous system to be able to calm, and allow people an opportunity to come back to themselves. I do this work primarily through Reiki, restorative yoga, and Thai foot massage or Thai foot relaxation, because I have found that these are all methods that really serve as an invitation for us to be able to kind of break that fast movement. Rituals have become a critical part of the work that I do for myself, and by extension, it's something that I offer to the women that I work with. For example, rituals of release, to be able to let things go that we may have been carrying for a period of time. And I want to say this very clearly, that two things can be true. We can do these things and we can also work with a therapist. We can do these things and still also be under the care of a physician or a nurse practitioner or a PA. We can do these things and we may still need to take whatever medication. We can do these things and use herbal supplements. This is one piece of the care that we provide to ourselves and that we choose for ourselves. These things help us energetically, they help us in our physical bodies, they help us to be able to think more clearly, more expansive, they aid in the creative process. This work is transformative. These practices are transformative.
Actually, it's not just transformative um, in helping us to think clearly and all of those other things, but it's transformative at the DNA level. Like
Yeah.
it is really changing the expression of our genes. We become different people. I want to go back to legacy with your work. What would you have hoped to accomplish in the lives of people when you are looking back over your life at 101 years old?
That people felt cared for, truly cared for, and fully seen. Yes, that's what I would say. That they would have felt cared for and seen. And as a result, something changed or something was sustained. Um, and whatever that part is, fill in the blank, that it comes back to the fact that they were cared for and they were seen.
I love that. I love that foundation, being cared for and seen. I love that you want your work to change a person, but you want being seen and cared for to be the driving force for that change. I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I think that's the I think that's the essence. Um, you asked me in the beginning to tell you about who I am, and part of who I am is this um, deeply spiritual person. My foundation comes from that in Christianity, and so for all of the challenges, if you will, that I might um, have or like to talk about, when I think about the ministry of Christ, I think about a ministry that was rooted in caring for people and seeing people. When I pause and fully look at someone, I'm also fully listening to them. I'm listening to the words that they're saying and the words that they're not saying, and I'm hearing their heart speak. Yeah, so that would be the legacy that I would want to leave. And I would say I believe that that is the legacy that I am leaving.
Yes, the legacy you're leaving is being created in this very moment. So if there's anything you might be doing that you don't want to live on, or a memory you don't want a person to have of you because of the way you're showing up right now, you have this moment to change, to be intentional about it, and rest about who you were. Let that go, rest, and just be who you are. If there's anything about the sacred rest spot or any final thought you'd like to leave, now is your moment.
I'd say first, thank you for this opportunity, Donna. I really appreciate it, and I always enjoy the conversation. For your community that may be watching, and for those who may be new to your community, I'd like to invite you to certainly follow me on Instagram, Alessandra.Poroj. That's ALESSANDRA. POROJ. And if you go into my bio, you'll find the link and you can find all of the things. I like for you all to know that you are most worthy of rest. You are worthy of taking a beat and taking a moment for yourself. I'd like for you to know that rest is a practice. You don't have to jump in with a whole hour or 2 hours, but you can start small and you can build up. And that you don't have to do this on your own. Would I love for you to potentially work with me? Yes, but there are other people out here. Take advantage of resources that are available to you. Rest is not something that we inherently just know how to do. Many of us, we were taught how to be hard workers all of the time, how to be go-getters, but learning how to rest is also a skill. And it's not something that you should feel embarrassed or ashamed that you don't know how to do, or think, well, I ought to be able to figure this out myself. If you do, great, but if you don't, allow yourself permission to reach out for support. Feel free to DM me through Instagram. I respond to those. And you can also register for my email. There is a link for that as well in the link in my bio. Know that I offer several different opportunities to be able to come back to yourself through a practice of rest. And then I do one-on-ones. Plenty of one-on-ones, and we can do restorative, we can do Reiki or Thai foot massage, and then there's an element of sound healing that takes place. And if you remember none of those things, the thing that I want you to remember is that you are worthy of rest.